Hell yeah, brother. Overload, brother. We're live.
Overload. Okay. Well, that's cool. We're live. We are live. I tweet out.
Oh,
We
I
are
tweeted
live.
out that we are live too from the
Wow. You
Overload
know
account.
what? That would get double the viewers, double the traction, double the gains.
There we go.
Hi guys,
There
we
we go.
see you. Please invite your friends, family, loved ones. Someone left.
Maddie, you're not doing a very good job of getting right to the content.
Not a hype man, and I do not get to the content. It's been a complaint, and I'm not taking constructive feedback well. And that is as more people leave. Only 14 minutes late this time. Let's go. I see you, Antonio. You think that's slick?
We see you, Antonio.
You got your stopwatch out, huh?
You trying to sneak this tonight? You know, we could just say, you know what, no Overload podcasts, right?
Yeah, we could just cancel this.
Yeah.
We're not contractually obligated or anything like that.
Definitely not. Definitely
No.
not.
Nope.
Odyssey, if you're listening, we apologize. We apologize. We don't mean it.
Yeah, we love you, Odyssey. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Ty, you were missed on Sunday.
But by who?
Too.
Oh, the listener. Too. Shit, yeah. That's my bad.
I missed you guys too. Oh.
How much do you pay Wolfpack to say that? That's is that $10?
I
10
this
loonies?
Is something. Yeah, 10 lunes and a couple of tunes as well. Yeah.
Lunes, is that
lunes
like the Becquois thing?
No, that's not actually a thing. I remember after I took my first trip up to Canada and came back to my job, this moron, not gonna beat around the bush, this moron that I worked with was like, I was talking about loonies and toonies, and they were like, actually it's pronounced lune and tune. And I go, well, actually, I've been there, so shut up. Yeah.
Shout out, moron. 509 Adventures, U-turn gang present.
Yeah, I think that guy before...
I don't like that. Why not overloaders? Or
I think the guy before he said, the thing about lunes and tunes should have did a U-turn and did some research. But he did not U-turn. Unlike the Seattle Seahawks defense, Maddie, which has U-turn.
Yes, let's do the intro.
Yes.
Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where it is the Seahawks Week 9 news roundup and chat with Matty, that's me, and Ty, which is
that's
Ty.
Me.
Wow, there we go, professional. We got some immediate Seahawks news, which is the left cornerback or outside cornerback Sidney Jones was released. They sounded like they tried to trade him. There was all these leaks through the media like, oh, Sidney Jones may be available for trade, and as Trey Brown's release comes up, return comes up, there's that kind of thing weighing over it where it's like, well, how's he going to get a roster spot, and who does he replace? Is it Artie Burns? Is it Sidney Jones? But it still feels harsh, Ty, on Sidney Jones, given that he kind of solidified the left side after Trey Brown got injured through the back half of the 2021 season when Seattle's back-end coverage unit played really good football.
Yeah, I wonder what happened here. I mean, I guess part of the answer, at least, is Mike Jackson's played really well, especially as of late, and Sidney just lost that battle. But to get to a point where he ended up being a healthy scratch a couple of times and now ends up getting released, it's interesting to think about, maybe what's gone on in practice, what happened during camp. Obviously he was hurt, but what kind of all came together here that led the Seahawks to this conclusion where they just basically have given up on Sidney Jones and have waived him and are now allowing him to go seek an opportunity to start elsewhere. And maybe part of that is just respect for the player. And saying just, hey, you're probably not gonna, or the path to you starting here is not very clear, so we're going to allow you to go out and, well, first we're going to try and trade you somewhere that you can get an opportunity to play, but if not, we'll release you. But yeah, I'm going to assume that the reason that they weren't able to hammer out a deal is just they didn't really have much leverage, right? At the end of it, that they, it leaked 2 or 3 weeks ago that he was on the trade block, and it seems like, at least by the way that it was being reported, that they were kind of openly shopping him. And I wonder if teams just kind of saw the writing on the wall with that, and just waited it out until he got released. I was kind of surprised though that maybe like a team like the Bengals didn't bite and just threw them like a 6th or a conditional 7th or whatever their way for him, especially with all the injuries that they've had with Chidobe Awuzie getting hurt most recently. But at the end of the day, I wish the best for Sidney. I hope that he gets an opportunity to play and gets in a situation where he can get back on track here, because we saw some good stuff out of him towards the end of last year, and so there's at least a decent cornerback there.
Yeah, so what goes into that good stuff? Well, they were playing quite a bit of middle field closed coverage. Middle field open coverage. So essentially, he'd always have a safety helping over the top, or to his over the top if it was cover 2, or inside but over the top if it was cover 4, right? And that is still difficult, but it is less difficult if you can be that simplistic than your cover 3s, your cover 1s, where you're more on an island out there and you only have help in the deep post when it comes to deep coverage, the deep middle third. So there's that going on. Then there's also the fact that this year they've transitioned to more kind of man-like cover 3, where it's like Saban's Rip Blizz. So it's asking a bit more of the cornerback. And rather than Seattle's old cover 3, like this cornerback's basically playing more man-like on pretty much every snap. Whereas there's a bit more zone baked into Seattle in previous years. There's also, I think, but more than that, he was earning 1.6% of Seattle's cap this year, whereas RT Burns is earning 0.9%. Burns obviously is more familiar with the system. Jones, he'll got up to speed a bit, but he did have some issues learning the system last year. He was a bit slow getting up to speed, as Griffin has pointed out in the past. And then, there's the cap number. And then if you're viewing him as the 4th string cornerback, right? Well, then contribute on special teams, but he didn't really contribute on special teams. Maybe that was to try and keep him healthy to go out and get a deal somewhere else, get traded somewhere else, but he just didn't. Whereas like Xavier Coleman comes in off the practice squad, he's flying downfield, he's almost hitting 23 miles per hour on kickoff coverage, according to Next Gen Stats. So there's that at play as well. And then you think about Trey Brown coming back, Ty. Trey Brown can contribute on special teams.
Yeah, so I also kind of wonder because Sidney was concussed, right? He was concussed at one point.
He did have a concussion, and it was he's had a history of he's had previous concussions that have been reported, and he's missed time with. And this concussion, it took him. They were very careful with it, which is good, but also it took him a while, I think, to get back up to speed, just to recover from the concussion, right?
Yeah, and so I kind of wonder if that also played into a part, or it played into the decision to not have him play special teams, because maybe you don't want to throw a guy out there that's coming off of a concussion, or want to try to avoid that if possible, just because of the violence of playing special teams. But so at the end of the day, I just I hope for the best for him. Hope that he's able to find a decent landing spot here to kind of recuperate some value before he hits the open market again in March, because he's kind of finding himself in a weird spot right now, where he did put some good stuff on tape last year, but hasn't really played this year. He's been dealing with some injuries, and if he doesn't really get much of a chance to play, he's going to be one of those guys that ends up like not signing until late in the process, and not really signing for anything that's going to guarantee him anything. So
it's kind of crazy, because at the start of this year he signed like a it was like a 1 year over $3.5 million deal, and you're like, okay, that's the
Yeah.
kind of prove it contract. Like he'll come in, he'll be the starter at left corner, he'll build upon his impressive back half of the 2021 season, and he'll earn a slightly longer term payday at 26 years old. You know, he'll earn like that big payday that he's looking for here, or perhaps more likely elsewhere. And instead, you know, Mike Jackson's come in, and I mean, again, he flashed in the preseason. He had some impressive hits and tackles. He was also very kind of twitchy, planting and driving on
Mm.
it. Former fifth round pick of the Dallas Cowboys in 2019. And the 25-year-old turns 26 in January, has locked down the left side for Seattle, and game upon game improved, right? And now he's up to speed and he looks great, and he sees that opportunity. And now he looks like the dude who, you know, are we going to be thinking Mike Jackson's the starter next year at left corner, and then they get another guy? Like
Right.
it seems that they're pretty happy, unless it's like a crazy amount of ball production, interception totals. It seems like they're kind of happy to let guys walk. But Jackson, for comparison, his cap number is $825,000, 0.4% of the cap.
Well, and maybe Trey Brown is the guy that pushes him, right? Because I think he'll
Right.
be in a better position to compete for that spot next year, heading into camp and everything. Because right now, you know, patella tendon. We've talked about this on the last few of these roundups that we've done. Just about Brown's situation, that, you know, it's a difficult injury to come from. A lot of guys are just not the same player when they come back from it. So you want to take time with that. But I think, yeah, that sets up an interesting battle there between Brown and Jackson, and maybe, you know, they throw someone else into that competition as well.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see how soon they make that competition happen, because
Mm-hmm.
I expect Brown, you know, they'll work him in on special teams first. Carroll mentioned on Monday how the trainers are sort of managing his reps. He'd practiced with the team last week, but at full speed, but a limited amount of reps, probably a very small amount. And they've slowly increased that load and see if he can handle it. And then he'll be thrown in. So probably not this week, but next week we might see him on special teams. Hopefully everything goes well there, which is super exciting. And then, like you say, it's obvious that, you know, he'll, you know, next season, right, he'd be competing with Jackson if Jackson does resign with the Seahawks, which why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
They gave you the op. It's the first place you've landed and worked things out. But do we see the competition sooner? So something to keep track of, something that is undoubtedly good, but another explanation for why Jones was released.
Yeah. So I was trying to see if there's maybe a situation where he's an RFA. So yeah, he's like all but locked in to come back.
There you go.
Yeah.
Idiot
All right.
Matthew.
No, you're not an idiot. Don't be so hard on yourself, buddy.
Wow, that's so good. Thanks. That worked
Yeah.
exactly as intended. I got pity.
There you go. There you go.
So the other big news, Ty, Will Dissly was named NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, which you might be like, oh, will Dissly play special teams? Well, he did against the Giants, right? He knocked the first fumble loose on the punt coverage from Richie James. And then James's unfortunate day continued, where Travis Homer knocked the ball loose and Dissly recovered the ball. So two big punt coverage plays from Dissly. He doesn't usually play on that spot, but he stepped up in a time where the Seahawks needed people to step up because they had some injuries to otherwise special teams contributors like your Nick Ballore, right? And look at him getting national recognition, which is so cool because he's been a really solid tight end for Seattle, and it's early, but that contract where people were like kind of freaking out that the Seahawks signed Dissly to a 3-year, $24 million deal, but now it's looking all right.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. He's been great this year, and you know that contract's going to look even better and better just with inflation. Like naturally, that's, you know, the bigger the cap increases, the better that all these deals are going to look. But yeah, so you know, this is what the fourth win out of 5 that they've had an NFC Player of the Week in some category.
You're right, because it was Nwosu week 1.
Yep. It was
Then
Gino
it was
week 4.
then it was Woolen at
Then it
some
was
point. And
Woolen
Woolen
against the Cardinals. It
Woolen
was
hasn't
what?
had two.
No, I didn't think. I don't think
Okay.
they had one against the Chargers.
I was thinking the 49ers
Walker.
maybe Woolen's kick block.
Mm,
Anyway, Ty, I believe you. It was the fifth, and that's all that matters right now.
there you go. There you go. But yeah, so Disley's doing a little bit of everything, and Pete was talking about how big it was for him to come in with Bloor being concussed and everything, and so this special teams unit right now is playing some really great ball. Larry Izzo's got his guys going, and they've been a big part of what the Seahawks have been doing, kind of an underrated part of what they've been doing, and now the return of Travis Homer as well. Obviously, already made such a big impact in that game on Sunday. So now that they're getting a little bit healthier, and once they get Bloor back into the mix, like this, the special teams unit is going to be really, really something to watch.
Very exciting, and as pointed out by Wolfpack in the comments, you're right, Wolfpack. Disley did recover from. He had back-to-back brutal injuries, didn't he, to his knee? But
he had a patella tendon in Arizona, and then an Achilles in Cleveland the year.
Achilles, right?
Yeah.
So not the knee, but yeah, and Disley has actually spoke to. He mentioned a while ago, I think it was in the off season, about how he'd spoke to Trey Brown about that recovery process and sort of given him some support. Now, yeah, he did recover, but also he looks a lot slower. So hopefully, Trey Brown is a bit more explosive, given his trademarks are burst and movement skills are far more important at the cornerback position than pretty much any position. So anyway,
there's sometimes when Uncle Will gets on his horse, though. I don't know. There's sometimes when I'm watching it on TV, I'm like, he looks a lot faster than he should right now. But then there's times that he looks really, really slow. He doesn't look like the guy that we saw week 1 in Denver in 2018.
I feel like 89 is a much sleeker, faster number than 88.
Okay.
Perhaps 88 so wide,
True.
So isn't 88 two fat ladies in bingo? Is that correct? That wouldn't make that. That might be 66.
I've never.
I think.
What
you don't do bingo?
I mean, like, I've gone to the bingo.
Everyone in England on a Saturday night gets lively in town. Everyone's at the bingo hall.
Yeah. Even you? That's your spot?
Everyone.
Literally,
I don't think you understand what everyone means.
Oh,
it means everyone.
Wow. Even the royal family. They're at the bingo.
Well, there's been some changes.
Right.
The old shuffle.
Yeah, they might not be in the best of mood to go to the bingo right now.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. Anyhow, so Ty, the trade deadline happened, and the Seahawks,
they acquired a wide receiver.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah, they actually did. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They did.
They signed Laquan Treadwell to the practice squad, released JJR
Thega
Whiteside. And again, I said the Treadwell move sounded a bit like the Whiteside edition, and then the fact they've released Arthega Whiteside in place of Treadwell kind of reflects that. Treadwell, former first-round pick, and former teammate of DK Metcalf, kind of one of the more infamous busts, if you want to give him that label. But why not? First-round picks happen for a reason, and Seattle, you know the spiel. But Seattle's culture is different, and maybe a bit of love, a bit of stuff can harness his talent. Also, Seattle, with the DK Metcalf deal going on still, with the partially torn patella tendon, another patella tendon, and the superimposed tendinopathy, maybe it suits them, I think, to get cycle through some big receiver options just in case. And so Treadwell, 6'1", not 6'4" like Arthega Whiteside, but he's still in that mold.
And he had a decent-ish year last year with Jacksonville. 33 catches on 51 targets, 434 yards, 1 touchdown. you know, he can play a little bit. He can play a little bit. So
it's basically Elijah Mortai.
Basically, it's basically Odell Beckham Jr. There's no need to go down that route. You have Laquan Treadwell.
Well,
that is a difficult name to say.
Little known fact about Laquan Treadwell is he went to Ole Miss, like DK Metcalf
and
like
Elijah Moore.
So again, where do the similarities stop?
I mean, they basically got AJ Brown on the practice squad.
Perfect. John Schneider did it again, guys.
Chills. But, he did it again.
The Seahawks standing put at the trade deadline, not making any trades. Probably not a surprise, really, given the glitzy options were probably going to cost too much.
Well, did you see some of the prices of some of these deals? Like, and
Schneider.
What do you think that says to you? Does that say more that they don't necessarily like believe in their, or like they understand what their ceiling is and they don't want to invest too much into this team? Or is it just as simple as like those prices are just way too much? Like, no way.
I think it's as simple as just not good value. And I think what we view as slightly inflated value, I think, is reflective of there's a lot of middling teams. So there's teams who are kind of thinking we can push ourselves over the edge here. So there's a lot more buyers, right? Supply and demand, all that sort of stuff. Carol spoke about their activity. Said we're in conversation with a lot of stuff. We were talking about a lot of stuff. Nothing worked out, obviously. Yeah, we were going like always, just the way we do it. John was really active and burning the phones up to know what was available and who was out there and all that kind of stuff, but nothing fit. And then he said the injured players coming back play a factor on the trade deadline. So you trade Brown, your Darryl Johnson, who's coming back, who we know they're positive about. Collier coming back now, being back.
Homer.
And I'm missing someone.
Homer, Collier, Brown, Johnson.
Another edge, maybe. Tyreek Smith, potentially.
I don't know.
This is bad on us. It's like, how much are you actually upgrading your team in this circumstance? Is it worth doing? And with the inflated value, that's why they stayed out.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when you hear things about like Panthers want 2 first rounds for Brian Burns, when you see that the Dolphins had to give up a first for 1 year Bradley Chubb, like, you're not going to go to the big to the high end of the market. But even some of the the smaller-ish deals, like a second rounder for Chase Claypool, like current, like present day Chase Claypool is like, that's ridiculous. So
modern day.
Was there a trade that maybe surprised you, or a trade maybe that you were like, the Seahawks should have done that, or at least considered that? No.
I mean, in terms of the surprise, Roquan Smith was cool, but that's the luxury that you can't really afford in the cap, and also how many picks you can't do it. So.
And then you gotta extend him and all that stuff. Yeah. Like a 2nd and 5, like fine, But again, we've talked about the usage of the linebackers, all that stuff. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole again, Maddie. But in terms of like a surprising move, I mean, I guess like the Lions trading TJ Hawkinson in division is weird.
Yeah, like with all these things, I'm like, why not pay your good players? Like, you can't constantly be in rebuild.
Yeah,
like I don't understand that at all. That was, I mean, maybe he just said, I'm not gonna resign here.
I guess, but I mean, like, I think they had him under club control for another year, right? I don't think he's a free agent.
Real odds. Like, they got pretty good assets back, like, but.
Yeah, he's under team control for next year as well. That's kind of weird. And we'll talk about Chubb. In a bit. That's
in the Denver update weekly segment.
Yeah. Also, obligatory tape review tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mention.
While we're doing all
Gotta
this,
drop that. Yeah.
follow the podcast at Seattle Overload.
Mm.
Follow Ty at
Mm.
Dane.
Zzz.
Yeah. Follow me at Matty F. Brown. And please like the video if you're watching live, comment. And if you're listening, please subscribe, 5-star reviews. Right, Ty. So, Geno Smith, as ever, we quote Pro Football Focus when it confirms our priors or is nice.
Yep.
He has a 95.7 PFF passing grade on 20+ yard passes, which leads the NFL, Ty.
Mm.
How about that?
How about that? Indeed, Matthew. I'm not the biggest PFF guy. I'll say that, Maddie. I don't think you are either. But like you said, when they say something nice about the Seahawks, we will listen. We will be open to discussing it. Yeah, I mean, Geno's the most efficient quarterback in the NFL right now. I mean, pretty much across the board, whatever statistic you want to look at, that's what he's been. So it makes sense. And, we're seeing them push the ball down the field a lot more as of late, and it's working. So, I'm interested to hear, like, especially in this Giants game, because Pete mentioned after the Giants game, and I assume you watched at least a little bit of the tape so far. Pete mentioned that Geno could have easily had 4 or 5 touchdowns in this game.
And you know what?
Mhm.
I said that in our post-game show.
So did that show
So
up
me and Pete are
on
the
the
same
tape?
person. I should be head coach of the Seahawks. But yeah,
Mhm.
Ty, he definitely could have.
Yeah. So on top of that, what are you seeing over the last few weeks with the downfield passing with Geno? Is it as efficient as PFF says?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. And it could be more efficient. And I think they're probably due a game, maybe Arizona rematch where
maybe.
they're a bit more prepared,
Mhm.
where they do go off again, but they're supported by the defense. Obviously the defense playing better football means you are less likely to have shootout games because the offense is less pressed into we need to really score here because the defense is dreadful. We need to build up a lead.
Mhm.
But still, interesting as well. Pete on Seattle Sports, Brock and Sulk in his show that he does every Monday. A real favorite listen of mine. He mentioned how he sort of said him putting his arm around the shoulder of Gino and bigging him up since he got there, he feels was important, and that perhaps Gino was misinterpreted in pass stops because he's hard headed and he thinks tough in like a good sense, like he's a competitor, but perhaps people misinterpreted that. I'd say for a former second round pick, even with that kind of stuff, to not want to understand that kind of player and not give him loads of like a proper second chance, a proper shot at it is a bit weird. It's a bit suspicious, and you know how the NFL can sometimes work. It's hard not to think about racism. It really is because
Yeah.
there's no real explanation. Anyway.
A lot of people looking pretty silly right now.
Yes, indeed. And but interesting, in that same interview, Pete mentioned that Drew Lock,
Drew?
maybe
Drew?
Drew has that
The
Drew.
the return
He's,
of Drew?
he said maybe Drew has that kind of support, and when his time comes, I think we'll see it as in the effect of that. So Drew's time will come, guys.
Oh,
Um,
you heard it here. Pete Carroll said that Drew Lock is the starting quarterback of the 2023 Seattle Seahawks. They're letting Gino walk.
2029.
Mm.
How funny would it be? How old is Drew Lock right now? So Drew Lock is
25?
he's 25. So
Okay.
Gino quarterbacks the Seahawks for 7 more years, 6 more years.
Okay.
And then the forgotten about Drew Lock, who has studied under Gino's superb football knowledge and been bigged up by Pete Carroll. He takes over the offense and he does a he does a Gino.
He does a Geno. Drew descends from the heavens and does a
Drew
Geno for the
VP.
Seahawks. And Drew VP. MV Drew. Damn. I can't wait for the day that I buy a Drew Lock jersey after buying the Geno jersey. History
But
will
there is
repeat
something to
itself.
be said, Ty, for the nurturing style of Pete, along with Waldron's obviously doing a great job as an offensive coordinator, working with Gino and unleashing him on the league.
Yeah. Is Shane Waldron going to be a head coach next year? The way that they're trending right now?
I mean, unless he's just really dorky, then. But heck, that can work.
Really? What?
Dorky,
dorky. Okay.
What do you think I said?
I was like Docky. I was like, what the hell is Docky?
Docky. He wears Dockers to his interview.
Who's Docky?
He looks like he's a sailor.
Yep.
No,
boat shoes and all. Yep.
But heck, dork can work. Like, look at Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel is not your conventional style head coach, and that's working pretty good.
Minus the
Waldron,
and
what I'm
covering
saying,
it up and all that. Yeah.
True. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. But the reason I say that is Waldron in his press conferences doesn't give anything, right? And he doesn't come across as the most enigmatic dude. That being said, it doesn't matter. And he's just a professional at press conferences. I'm sure he's much more, what do you call it? Enthusiastic, perhaps charming even when it's not a press conference setting. But also press conferences are weird. Like, you've got all these mics in your face. You're not going to be your natural self. Well, I wouldn't be. So
right.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the league, at least some of the league, is going to look at it as he fixed Geno Smith, which, okay.
I mean, he
2
obviously
rookie
deserves
tackles.
credit with that.
He does. Yeah. He does.
2 rookie tackles, and he is noticeably like calling stuff to protect them. Like, he's not exposing them to loads of true dropbacks. He's chipping in pass pro. He's using rollouts and boots to protect them from stuff. He's running the ball in certain instances. Like, he's doing good stuff there.
Yeah. Nice save. And they've been one of the most efficient offenses overall in all of football. I mean, that's going to catch anyone's attention. So unless they just completely fall off in the second half, which, knock on wood.
Was that wood?
That was wood. That is literally wood.
When I knock on wood, I'm not knocking on wood. So,
well, then it's not working, Maddie. It's not working.
True.
But yeah, I think he's probably going to end up getting a head coaching job. Plus, he's a McVay guy, right? He's the McVay guy. We have to get the McVay guy.
And he looks like a good McVay guy, so you should probably hire him. I saw someone saying, what if they asked Pete to retire? It was Eric Eager. He's saying, what if they asked Pete to retire and Waldron to be head coach?
Yeah, they're going to ask Pete to retire after this year. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, sure.
But anyway,
by the way, Pete Carroll is coach of the year. Just let's get that clear. Pete Carroll is coach of the year.
He should be, but that's just a weird award as well. Anyway.
It is. I mean, John Schneider never won executive of the year. So
no, he didn't. Yeah. So what I found cool, Ty, was Seattle in 2022 has forced 15 fumbles. And in all of 2021, they only forced 9. And so Brock Hewitt asked Pete Carroll about what the difference was. And Carroll said that for the last 4 to 5 or so years, they talked about taking shots when they were tackling and going for punch the ball out scenarios. But that was sort of overtaking the actual tackle, and so it was pretty obvious and you were missing your tackle. But now this year they've adjusted to punch tackles with a sort of different emphasis, which Hurt described Wednesday, Clint Hurt, the defense coordinator, as like a wrap, but you punch as you wrap, such as what we've seen with Kobe Bryant's ability. And it's worked, right? Like, the results are there. Now turnovers are slightly random, but still, that's very, very cool. And this kind of new style of wrap and punch, and Hurt also mentioned if you're the second guy coming into the pile, rather than trying to go for the kill shot or push the pile, go for the punch. That those two elements, excellent stuff.
Yeah, and we saw that late in garbage time on Sunday against the Giants. Tariq didn't make a great tackle attempt there, but he was basically doing that. If you want to see an example of that, you can see it there as well. But you can also look at all of Kobe Bryant's plays as well. And it's it's working. You know, the big thing for this defense is it needed to generate more turnovers somehow, because they weren't getting the picks and they weren't really getting the fumbles, as you noted there, with just 9 last year. How many of the 15 have they recovered? Do you know?
No, but you know what, Ty? There's this website called Pro
Football
Reference.
Yeah,
and
it's
on
pretty
Pro
handy
Football
tool.
Reference, it is pretty handy. And on there you can. Well, the one problem I find, but I am a bit stupid, is it's not the most friendly interface, is it? I mean, it's not bad. It's just a bit.
It gets a little
clunky.
confusing.
You can get lost in a wormhole. Like right now, I'm looking at quarterback knockdown percentage. Like, ooh, but I really want to find fumble recoveries.
Fumble recoveries. Where would they be? Let's look this up live on the show, because this is great radio. I know everyone is enjoying listening to this.
Sponsored by.
Okay, here we go. You ready? You're ready?
I'm so ready. So 15 forced fumbles.
They've recovered 12.
There we go.
That's a really nice percentage. It's a really nice percentage.
That is. It's so nice I can't work out that percentage because I'm bad at math.
Is 12 out of 15. It is 80%. 80%. There we go. I totally did that without Googling.
No way. Little rounding.
Whoa. Whoa. Nice, sexy little rounded number. Yes.
Of course it's 80%. Marvelous. Anyway, so that has been cool. Now, the Seahawks defense, Ty, if we're staying on the defensive theme, speak properly.
I mean, this is Seattle overload after all. So
it is. Per Football Outsiders, who have their DVOA metric, which obviously the Seahawks have fabulous history with.
Maddie, what is DVOA?
You can visit the full explanation at footballoutsiders.com. Yes, but basically, Ty, DVOA is basically adjusting performance for opponent. But it's a percentage.
So basically, if you play well against good teams, you do better in DVOA, whereas against bad teams, not as good.
The womp-womps.
The womp-womps, yes. Okay, so we got the hashtag since week 5 numbers here. Tell me how dope the Seahawks defense has been since week 5. Hashtag since week 5.
They have been minus 22.4%. What does that mean? Well, it's second best in the NFL. And if you remember Seahawks week 5, their actual game, that was at the Saints, which wasn't a good game at all. So if you did this week 6, week 7, week 8, they'd 100% be first. The fact they're second, even with that Saints game, where there were the shoots of progress, but they still had some real bad moments, right? It wasn't Lions bad, but it was still bad. It was a Taysom Hill freak game, but also they hadn't refined themselves. But week 6, where, you know, they really embraced the technique stuff, which I want to talk about in a second. The Arizona game. Wow. So that's really exciting. And then weeks 1 to 4, so the opening, when which Carroll's termed rope-a-dope, 17.3%, 31st in the NFL, which I think everyone, like any metric, had them like second worst in the league, just in front of the Lions, right?
It is weird that they listed that tweet for weeks 1 through 4 and then weeks 5 through 8. Why wouldn't you just do weeks 1 through 5 and then weeks 6 through 8? Because like that's when the change happened. That like because I would
I
assume
guess
that
they want to
they would
keep
still
it
be.
in fours, don't they?
I guess if they want to be all particular like that
I mean,
or
they are
whatever.
mathematicians, Ty. We
That
can't.
is true. That is
Yeah.
true. They would know that 12 out of 15 is 80% right off the top of their head and not need Google to figure that out.
Indeed. So,
Indeed.
Carol mentioned the importance of the 12s again to Seattle sports, and that isn't like a joke. Like, I've said this before, but the noise of a home crowd means that offenses have to go silent count, which means Seattle can jump the snap because they know when it's happening. It also means they can identify what side the pass protection is sliding to, so they know what side they have one-on-ones in pass rush situations, and so they know what side to run games to separate against man pass protection. So it's very useful, and Carol's right in that. Now, they've talked about a big reason why the DVOA, the pass rush numbers, everything is improving, right? Is because they're stopping the run. Because when you stop the run, you eventually force a team to get one-dimensional and pass the football. If your offense is also, which it is with Geno, living up to their end of the bargain, and so you get that fourth quarter against the Giants where Daniel Jones is suddenly forced to actually be a quarterback, and you get the Cardinals game, and hopefully we get that again, right? And you get these one-dimensional situations, and this week the Seahawks coaches said the quiet part out loud, which we said early on. We've said on a lot of overloads, but basically Seattle was doing more bare fronts on early downs, less even fronts, right? So less 4-2-5 or 2-4-5 appearance, more bare front. So 5 guys down at the line of scrimmage covering the guard, the center, the guard, and then the 2 edges. And Carroll said on Monday that he's really fired up about the run defense improvement. But the key part of all of this was him saying, we have benefited from the past couple of years with the way we do things now, and that which we did in the last couple of years. And there's a little bit more connection than that you might see, but obviously we saw it. That he thinks it's paid off. And they learned our guys in the year's experience in the past, and they've now deployed them a little bit more specifically to all of that stuff. So that's basically saying they've gone back to the techniques that they were using a bit more often in the past 2 years. And then Hurt on Wednesday says, all the techniques that we've learned in the previous years are the same, which we've been saying, but the difference is this year, and again we've said this on past overloads, but they're power stepping more. They're allowing them to play more downhill, less sort of 1.5 gapping, mirror stepping, more passive. Though they still do that, they're doing way less of that because of how they've sort of built up their bare fronts. And the big thing he said for me was, because we were playing more split safeties and things of that nature, it required them, the defensive line, to do more often things that maybe they weren't most comfortable doing. And then so obviously it's just working our way around that and saying, okay, if we're going to adjust in this facet, then we have to adjust somewhere else so we don't get hurt. And then he said it all went hand in hand with going, just put your players in the best position to play and hear them out. So when he says about the split safeties, again, they're still doing split safety stuff, but they're doing it from bare front looks. Now, they were doing bare front looks and split safety stuff, but they were doing much more mirror stepping, which they weren't very good at. And then they were also doing split safety stuff with the even fronts where they didn't have the dudes to set the edge. And they also were struggling, the 2 defensive tackles playing heavy techniques, again, mirror stepping stuff. They were struggling with that as well. And when he says we're going to adjust in this facet, so then we have to adjust somewhere else so we don't get hurt, I imagine that's saying about moving to bare fronts and then changing the techniques up a bit.
So basically what he was saying was actually K&J was coaching his MF socks off.
Ken Norton Jr. has no socks, yes.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
are off. They're on the floor.
They are all the way across the room on the other side of the room.
Do you a bit of a personal question here, Ty?
Oh, okay.
Do you wear socks in bed?
No, I'm not a psychopath.
I get told off for taking my socks off in bed, like leaving them in the bed.
Oh, wait, you leave them in the bed?
I
What if
I'm tired, Ty.
just throw them on the floor? You got a hamper, right? You got a clothes hamper like nearby,
You have the
right?
clothes hamper right next to the bed, huh?
I mean, it's like, I mean, can't you like shoot it like a basketball or
Shoot it?
something? Yeah, shoot it like a basketball. It's
You think I played basketball in Britain? We don't play basketball.
all right, then kick it over there
That's
like
not
some
true. We
footy.
do we do play basketball, and it should receive more funding because it's very popular. But it doesn't receive funding because more traditional, upper class, white sports
Mm.
get the funding. Anyway, I digress.
So let's U-turn here back to the Seahawks defense.
Mhm.
Let's talk about how this is kind of helping them, or helping specific players like Brian Monet, who is just wrecking games right now. As Griff tweeted today, Brian Monet cannot be killed at the moment, with them lining him up at
Mhm.
zero tech.
Mhm.
He is playing ridiculous right now. I want to ask you though, how is, because you talked about stopping the run and how much they've improved there over the last few weeks. How much has the return of Bruce Irvin helped with that?
Well, that's crazy because like setting the edge is this experience of like, okay, you want to stay outside and knock the guy back and be that outside presence to really show up with depth and force the runner to turn upfield to your inside and really set the edge, right? Set the edge of the defense. But if you can dip inside and take an inside move on the guy blocking you and then still get into the backfield and make the tackle or get outside, but you've really penetrated with outside depth, you can take your shot, then that's really powerful and effective. And so what we saw last week was Irvin timing those up beautifully. Like he wasn't running himself out the play. He was taking his shot and he was hitting it, right? He was making it right. Like back in the day, you like your Cliff Averill, your Michael Bennett. Sometimes they'd be tasked with setting the edge, but they'd take their inside shot, and the linebacker behind them would play off them, and it wouldn't be a called game or stunt or anything. They'd just take their shot, and the guy behind would be like, "Okay, he's taking his shot now. I'll play off this." And often them taking their shot, they'd get the tackle for loss. It's all about feel, understanding, and Irvin obviously has that experience in this system. Just very, very experienced with setting an edge. Like as I said, I watched an Aaron Curry, who's the assistant coach of the Seahawks. He coaches the outside linebackers. He coaches them how to set the edge. But I watched the clinic he did. I think it was in the 2020 off season because obviously Irvin was with the team in 2018, but unfortunately got hurt. I think it was in the 2020 off season with because Curry only started coaching the Seahawks in 2019, 20. I can't remember. Anyway, Curry did a
Hmm.
clinic on edge setting.
Irvin was with the team in 2020 and he got hurt, not 2018, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I thought that then.
So
Anyway,
I don't know. Anyway,
Curry's clinic, he did a clinic on edge setting and like how to coach players to set the edge from that wide nine crash alignment that the Seahawks use in bare fronts, for instance. And so many of the clips were Bruce Irvin doing it for the Bears. The Bears, like this fairly recent. So Irvin's been good at it and he's still good at it. And it's awesome. And he's even contributing as a pass rusher, getting chipped in pass protection.
yeah, he was getting
So,
chipped. He was getting chipped late in that game. What the hell?
like,
Like,
what? Not even like 3 weeks off the street, like this is nuts. And
and they
35 years old.
and they haven't signed him to the active roster yet, right? didn't miss that. Correct.
No, and he's been activated twice,
So
so
they need to.
they have to,
Yeah.
which they will because, well, one, he's playing really well. Two, Bam Johnson, it doesn't sound like he'll be back this week, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I
who's
mean,
like a
like,
similar kind of idea.
but I mean, like, why move off of Bruce at this point?
No,
Because
you
he's like,
shouldn't. You shouldn't.
yeah, he's like, he looks like he can still play right now. Like, he's doing this kind of like, I know he's kind of looking at this as like a one last ride type of thing, but he's legit still. Like, he's
Indeed.
helping.
Indeed.
Shelby
So
Harris is also really helping right now.
he is, and it was so cool. He said he's his high school leader in block shots for basketball. Now that does kind of depend on what high school he played for, right? Because like you could go
Yes.
to a high school where they're all like 5'2", and then you would
Yeah.
be at Shelby Harris's height, the leader in block shots. But kind of makes sense with how effective he's been at tipping the football.
Yeah, he's been really, really good at that. I mean, the hustle play on Daniel Jones on the third down as well was fantastic. He's been quietly having a great season for this team.
Yes,
And he's also been kind of a someone that's whose play has been elevated over the last couple weeks with the Bear Friends and everything as well. So that's yeah. I mean the Shelby Harris trade, right? It's the Shelby Harris trade. It's not
it
the Russell
is
Wilson trade.
the major player in that. He had 2 passes deflected against the Chargers, which is all he's got on the season per Pro Football Reference. But Carroll mentioned it. He's really aware of the quarterback when he's rushing, which not all guys are, and so he's very good at getting his hands up. There has been a lot more plays than just the 2 pass deflections where he has like good timing and it's shrunk a passing window. It's made it more difficult, and against the smaller guys like your Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray this week, and in the past encounter this season, that kind of shrinking of the interior with leaping is valuable because they just can't see when you jump up like that and you time it well, which Harris does. Ty,
me.
Is it time for our weekly Denver Broncos updates?
I think it is, Maddie. I think
Oh, that's
time.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
I didn't mention it for no reason then. Excellent.
Yeah.
So the Denver Broncos.
Actually,
won, right?
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a good joke.
They did. Yeah.
You got me.
Owned. I was so epic. The Broncos did win.
They did
by 4.
21-17 in my neck of the woods.
Your neck of the woods. Yep, you were there.
London
you
town.
were right there. You were right there.
I wasn't
of course.
there. I wasn't there. I was
weren't
coaching.
There?
I was coaching football.
I thought you would have been like full on, R.I.P. Bozo. I thought that was going to be you because obviously
that would
you're
be toxic,
very
Ty.
that would be very toxic and obnoxious. And as we know, you are both.
True. So I didn't actually get to watch much of this game because I was coaching football. I just tuned in for the Russ 2-minute drill where he can throw a deep ball. Like he looked, it was a really good deep ball. Why the heck the Jacksonville defense comes out and is like, yeah, you know what? To open this 2-minute drill, we're going to give you obvious middle field close, obvious one-on-one outside. Go on, Russ, hit it. And Russ is like, yeah, fine, I'll hit it then.
Was Shaquille Griffin hurt too, by the way? They had Trey Herndon on KJ Hamler. Yeah, it was Trey Herndon.
Isn't he a safety?
No, he's a corner, but he's
he just
not.
Wears 37 like
but
a weirdo.
Yeah. But he's like not the guy you put on KJ Hamler.
Yeah, so
in one-on-one situations.
That was bad. And also, like, I did happen to see, like, I think the drive before actually, and they spun into cover 2, and like there was trouble in Russ, like as it does. So I don't know what they're doing, but like good for Russ, good win, and they moved at that point to 3-5 on the season. Though by all accounts, like there was still a lot of issues. Like they had delay of game on the opening kickoff.
There was some really
still 18 for 30 with 1 interception, only 1 touchdown. a lot more gun running, so maybe they're figuring out the kind of balance for Russ. But yeah, it seems like they went a while without getting a first down, bad third down conversions. Like they're by no means fixed, and the Jags are a really bad team. They're 2-6 now, so
Yeah, the Jaguars are awful. Trevor Lawrence is not great right now. So and that
but
Broncos defense is still, is really good, right?
yeah, well
Well,
that Broncos
maybe now
defense,
not as much.
right, because that Broncos defense is amazing, right? Like 3 and
Yeah.
5. Like maybe they start. Russ gets a bit more middle field close looks. His arm looks good again. Like he can throw the deep ball in his incredible style against single high stuff, especially. It's coming together. They're going to run the ball a bit more to help Russ out. It's going to be good, and then they trade Bradley Sharp.
Yeah, which wasn't the report like if they lose the game, they're going to trade Bradley Chubb, but if they win the game, they're not. And so, which I think that's silly to let a player's future hang in the balance of one game,
Well,
especially now in an expanded schedule. But
the Patton, the Broncos general manager, said he'd have made the trade even if they were 5-3.
I don't know about that.
I mean,
I
getting a first round pick for a guy who was probably going to leave in free agency because they're a bit cap restricted now. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that is good, but also I
But if
don't think
you
you made it
no,
if you're 5-3.
that's
That's cope.
that's as the kids say, cap.
Cappy cope. Copey
Yeah.
cap.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're 5-3, it doesn't matter if the guy's about to be a free agent. That first round pick isn't going to help you win a Super Bowl
Let's
this
go
year.
win a Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's silly. That's a completely silly thing to say. But they trade Chubb, and like, yeah, us on the outside will get that, but Chubb's former teammates are not going to understand that.
No,
I'm
yeah,
going
it's
to,
tough. And like the
especially
defense
after like,
was playing at like an elite level, and
oh, they were the best
Evero
defense in the league.
Evero
Like,
had them like with consistent buy-in despite and like real tough play despite like a lot going on, right? Like they
yeah.
had nothing going for them from the other side of the ball or even special teams at times. And so that kind of move is like, are we serious now? Like we were doing really well, and you've just, uh, but then the Broncos, I guess they tried to alleviate that a bit by going and getting Jacob Martin.
How has he been this year? Because he had a
I've
pretty
no
decent
idea,
year
but
last year, I
I
think.
always had a soft spot for him.
Yeah, I like Jacob Martin too. So I mean, like
They
maybe
gave
that
up
helps.
they gave up a 4th round pick in 2024 in exchange for a 5th round pick in 2024. So basically nothing. Which
A,
I mean,
a one round trade
I
up
guess that's the
2
trade
years
I'd
down
have
the
done if
road.
you're Seattle.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's I don't know. I don't really get it because I think that you're going to rub that defense really the wrong way, and you're not cooked yet. Like you can turn things around still if you're Denver. Um, it's you're 3-5, but again, 17 game season now. Like you have time. You have time to turn things around, and it seems like things are kind of maybe turning around, or at least like that's a game that you have, even though that it's against a bad opponent and you only won by 4. That's a game that you still have, and that boosts morale a little bit. But now I feel like you completely, did away with any good that you did on Sunday with trading Chubb, and now that defense is going to be looking at you like, oh, so you don't believe in us then, right?
Yeah, it's a tough
Like,
one.
and so it's going to be interesting to see how that defense plays next few weeks after this.
Yeah. Well, of course, they have a bye week after their London experience. They didn't do what the Saints did, where they declined it. And then they play at the 5-2 Titans, and then they host the 2-5 Raiders. So we can keep an eye on that.
And then they so wait, is that Raiders game the week before before the Seahawks play the Raiders? I feel like the Seahawks have had a couple of back-to-backs with the
I
Broncos
the
this year.
Seahawks play the Raiders this year.
Are
They
you
do.
serious? Yeah, they do. Yeah.
It is the week before. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, they play them coming out of the bye week, I think, right?
Damn, that game looked so difficult, and now doesn't look difficult. But
No,
maybe more difficult.
they look really not good. Dude, I was watching that game that they had with the Saints this past week. Their offense didn't get the ball past the 50 until like the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I was also I had a fantasy football related interest in that Devontae Adams
Same,
and
yeah, same.
and it
Yep.
didn't go very well. But
Yeah,
anyway.
so I traded Jonathan Taylor because I'm stacked at running back for Devontae, and Devontae gives me 1.2 points in my first game.
Yeah,
With him,
he's
so
now
that's-
ill, I think. Hope he gets better soon.
Yeah.
As
So
a-
lastly,
yeah.
speaking about other teams that Seahawks fans would have some sort of interest in, the Rams, who are not playing particularly well right now, dealing with some injuries, of course, dealing with some shoddy offensive line play, dealing with a quarterback who seems to have, to be nice about it, regressed a little bit.
They're 3-4.
They're 3-4. They're 3-4. They're not cooked by any stretch of the imagination, but they're off to a disappointing start, I would say, after winning a Super Bowl. Was it Dove? Yeah, it was Dove Kleiman here that tweeted, Rams coach Sean McVay's future with the team is tied to the core group of Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, and Jalen Ramsey. And in all likelihood, once that group leaves, McVay will retire, according to Albert Breer. Now, Maddie, correct me if I'm wrong. Sean McVay is 36 years old.
Well, hang on. I don't know that off the top of my head. Let me ask Wikipedia that. He is he's born in Dayton, Ohio. He's 36 years old. He turns 37 January 24th.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this as well. There's another coach in the same division as Sean McVay, who is 71 years old and is having the time of his life coaching football right now.
Yeah, I think is that
it's not Cliff Kingsbury.
Cliff, no.
Yeah, it's not Cliff.
Kyle's kind of young as well. Oh, it's Pete Carroll.
Yeah, it's Pete Carroll. If I'm Pete Carroll and I see this, I'm looking down upon Sean McVay, going, this is pathetic. What? All right, seriously though, like,
scared to compete.
Yeah, exactly. Why? Yeah, no, this screams to me, if this is actually true, this screams to me that Sean McVay is scared of what it would look like without having Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Ramsey, etc. on his team.
He kind of done it all. I mean, it came out in the it came out in the off season, didn't it? That he was considering. It always seems to be a thing. I guess he's one of these kind of. I mean, to be a successful coach, I think you have to be a maniac. But he is real, like, all in on it. And if you've won it all, does the motivation go? I think really it shows how special Pete is to have this like relentless competitive energy and optimism, and even like a Belichick, where okay, it's a very different style, but still to keep going. But like coaching is tough, like, and it would wear you down, and it is a bit weird that it's linked to this core group. Like, surely you should. But like, what's to say he could take a 5-year sabbatical? I think that would be cool.
I kind of wonder if it's also like he knows that there's TV networks that have interest in him and are willing to.
Oh, he could earn so much money.
Back up the Brinks truck for him. I mean, because look at what Tony Romo got, right? Like,
yeah,
Sean McVay isn't making that kind of money.
Face for TV.
Yeah, and he does all that stuff where you can remember plays from when he was back in Washington.
He'd
And
be like the new, hopefully not to be cancelled and not problematic Gruden.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
So
then
yeah,
he'd
I
go
think
and coach the Raiders
okay.
after so many years, and then hopefully
Maybe the
merge.
Commanders. Maybe the Commanders after they get
Oh,
sold.
perfect! Absolutely
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
A homecoming for well, it was his old team. That's why it's a
They had a
homecoming
different
for
name. Yeah,
yeah, they had a different name.
yeah.
One we will
It
not be
was
repeating
worse.
on
It was
this.
much worse. Yeah,
Yeah, it was much worse.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Although the Commanders is a bad name compared to the football team.
left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders.
Is
Have you
that
heard that?
that's a
Yeah,
song?
yeah. There's a song. Yeah, there's a Commander song. It's
I was really I quite like that.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes
We're
I just get
covering
it
the
stuck in,
war.
and sometimes I get it stuck in my head. I'll just be like, cleaning
Uh-huh.
or
Yeah.
whatever, and being like,
Taking your
and
socks off.
yeah, taking my socks off, putting them in a hamper, somewhere that is located somewhere in my bedroom. Maybe not right next to my bed, Maddie, but I'm not, lazy.
From downtown.
Yeah, from downtown, I'm draining threes with my Nikes.
Uh-huh.
So
Nice. We're covering the wrong Washington team then.
I think we are. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Once the Commanders get sold and have an owner, hopefully, fingers crossed, that is not garbage.
We have Ty. We have a question here before we hop off.
Okay.
So Michael Somerville, thank you for commenting. He said, "What's the 5 down lineman look they've been playing the last 3 weeks called?" I don't know because I'm not part of their meetings. I know
You haven't zoomed in on the play sheets. You haven't
Oh no,
figured it out. You
I've
haven't
tried that.
deciphered.
Why Jetty Images and other photographers, people, etc. Love you guys. Could you please take more pictures of Clint Hurt? Because his defense is doing well now. Why is there loads of pictures of him when they're struggling and now no pictures?
Now to be
And if he's
fair,
holding a
Maddie.
play sheet, that would also be preferable. But
Now to be fair, Maddie, I don't think the Seattle Seahawks PR team would appreciate one of their credentialed reporters finding that information and then leaking said information onto the internet, because now you're
yes,
big
true.
time.
I wouldn't
You're
do
big
that.
time now.
However, Michael, what I can tell you is Clint Hurt, he did say he said this. He said, and I did have my suspicions, but he said they're 3-3-5 look. So that's 3 big uglies. Well, they're beautiful, but they're big guys.
Yeah, that's mean, Maddie.
So mean. But I'm a small guy, so 2 outside
Short king.
linebackers, and then the nickel, so Kobe Bryant, the inside linebacker, which is Jordan Brooks, and then the strong safety Ryan Neal. So you get a 5-1 or 5-3 look. He called that Penny, which is what Fangio calls Penny. So they are using the Vic Fangio terminology, which would mean the bare front, even with the adjustment, Michael, is called tight. And then the convention would be if you're running quarter half, they'd call that tight will 6, because the 2 outside linebackers are the Sam and the Will, which is confusing, right? Because the Will used to be an off-ball guy. And the tight will 6, the Sam drops in coverage. He's the quarter flat player in the cover 4 part of the coverage. And then the Will is rushing, which is why there's the will element to tell you it's tight will 6. It's still a 4-man rush, but the 4th rusher is the Will, not the Sam outside linebacker. And then if you're asking what they've been playing the last 3 weeks, 5 down linemen where they've had your question could be taken a few ways, but if it's the 5 down lineman, well, no, that's the only way to answer it. Other than Carroll in the past, I've wrote an article on it, but 2006 at USC, they couldn't stop Vince Young. They couldn't stop the spread. The Rose Bowl happened, right, against Texas. Vince Young was Vince Young, right? So that doesn't help.
Yeah.
But then he developed via his 4-3 system. He developed a bare front, which he called stick. Which again, Jordan Brooks revealed that. But I wrote an article on that, Michael, in the off season because I thought they'd build on that. But there's this
I edited
two-part
that
on the
article.
history. Ty edited it. He had to put
Yeah.
up with all that stuff. So
It was like, I think between the two parts, it was like 5,000 words, 6,000 words. Like you wrote a lot for those articles. Yeah.
I literally spent like an embarrassing amount of time on that. Like I spent, we're talking like 108 hours. Like I spent, so I ordered books from the US to try and find references to bare fronts, and then it was a much smaller article than I actually thought it would be. But anyway, it was the big story of the season back then because they did it to help out against the Rams' like bootlegs and like looking for play action crosses and all that stuff, and it actually worked. If you remember how they won the division. And the defense actually sorted their stuff out in our opinions anyway. So Michael, that is stick. And the techniques they're running now are much more like stick than Vic Fangio's tight, which is also what you'd call a bare front, right? But they probably still call it tight because they're using the Fangio language and it might confuse the players. However, there's no way of knowing, and you don't need to know really, but cool question, and you let me ramble for 10 extra minutes. So thank you, Michael. We appreciate you. And we appreciate everyone for their comments because there's been lots and they've been very useful. If you're listening to this afterwards, we do go live on YouTube at my YouTube channel at Matty F. Brown. And we also go live on Twitter at Matty F. Brown. And, you know, you can get involved with the show live, have a little impact on it. Until next time.
Have a little chat.
You just had to ruin it. We're having such a good show. It's just so until next time.
I can't help myself, Matty. I can't control myself.
Can. It's like Americans have this button. I did a Giants podcast and it didn't go well. Like in the comments, they were hating me. Someone called me a tea and crumpets fucker. I mean, to be fair, like that is much better than the usual. Because like usually it's like, oh, you've got you got bad teeth, something about the Queen,
right?
Beans on toast,
right? The classics.
The tea and crumpets fucker. That was New York. New York came for me. I knew it. I just knew it.
I'm from New York. You've seen those videos, right? With Spider Cuz and them. Yeah. Outside of the Knicks games and all that. Yeah. Yes, you were Trae Young in this. Scenario.
I was with No, let's not go after his hair. I need a haircut still. Okay.
By the way, I saw the Raptors play the Hawks on Monday, and there were Trae's balding chants that were happening at the stadium. I can confirm.
I think he knows he's balding. I think he probably knows that. Why are they telling him?
I mean, also like it seemed, and it's like a choice it's like a choice at this point for him too, right? Like he has, like LeBron fixed his hairline, like he's got money, like he can do it. Like
I like that he hasn't, but I think maybe baldy, go for the baldy bald.
Yeah, just go just lean into it.
Like when I get to that point, I'm gonna go for it,
Yeah, just
maybe.
Yeah, you got to commit.
I'm not firmly committed. I feel as a sports writer and sports person, columnist. I'm not a columnist. Why am I saying this? Sports content creator. I think it's having like a balding thing going on might work. Like wispy hair, maybe glasses. Add some glasses in.
That sounds like a certain former coach of the Minnesota Vikings. It sounds
not like that. More like Larry David.
Okay, all right. I got you.
What? I don't. No.
You could go your mustache, a little cul-de-sac. I'm just saying. You could throw it back to the mid 2000s Minnesota Vikings. I'm just saying.
Okay, let's wrap up. I'm done with this. Right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, review, 5 stars. We appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow with the Tape Review podcast. with Griffin, possibly Ty, and lots of all 22 to answer your questions about how the Seahawks beat the heck out of the Giants and how they will hopefully defeat the Arizona Cardinals for the second time this season and move to 6-3 and first place in the NFC West.
Yes.
Stay on top.
T and Crumpets fucker.